Hey, it's Rachel Cooke, your modern mentor. I'm the founder of Lead Above Noise, a firm specializing in activating workplaces, helping you discover ways to amplify performance and employee engagement together. We do leader boot camps, keynotes, and pulse checks. Just let us know what you need. So can we talk for a minute about the secret of my success? I mean, my version of success, of course, maybe not yours. And also maybe not a secret as I'm talking about it openly and I've done so before. But you get my drift. It is my bullet journal. I swear this thing looks like it comes straight out of 1997. It is an anthem to analog. And yet it is the thing I would save in the fire after the dog and the children and all of my Golden Girls paraphernalia. People think it's quirky, but I love it because it captures absolutely everything, from the things I have to do today, this week, this month, and this year, to all of my ideas for future podcast episodes, and TED Talks I want to watch, and LinkedIn posts I want to write, workouts I want to try, and on and on. It works for me because my mind is noisy, and the bullet journal is my holding place for all the chaos. I always just thought it was a thing I did, that lots of people do. But it turns out this thing I do has kind of a fancy name. It's called cognitive offloading, which is essentially a schmancy phrase for the tools and strategies you use to manage all the stuff banging around in your brain. When we leave all the important things inside of our minds, the stuff uses up space and energy that it could be using to do more interesting things, like innovating and imagining, like learning, and like being really present in the conversation you're having. So let's talk about some basic ways that you can clear the mind cobwebs and free up that real estate for bigger, better things. First, unload that to-do list. So I hate to brag, but my memory is, what was I saying again? Okay, no, it's not really that bad, but it's bad enough that I know not to rely on it to carry my list of to-dos. But I know plenty of people, some of whom may or may not share my home address, who believe their memories to be flawless, so they carry their to-do lists up there. And they end up doing only about half of what's actually on the list. When our brains are trying to remember all the things we need to do, there's less room for other more compelling things to happen up there. Personally, I like the journal, but you do you. Grab your own journal or use Post-its or reminders. But if it has to get done, put it or post it somewhere, anywhere that's not just your brain. Not only will this reduce the mental energy spent on remembering tasks and deadlines, but it frees you up to actually complete them. Imagine? Next, schedule what matters. All of it. We, the royal we, are generally good at scheduling the essentials. Meetings, appointments, trainings, the non-negotiables, the things that others are counting on us to show up for. But when we do this, and only this, it becomes too easy to let the non-negotiables take over every minute of our day. And the stuff that's also important, but mostly to ourselves, falls to the wayside. I schedule my meetings, of course, but also my walks and my check-ins with friends and family. I schedule windows of social media and news scrolling. I schedule my workouts, my reading time, my listening time, my learning time. You get my point. Do I ever get derailed? Of course I do. But also, I never wake up one day and realize, hey, it has been a solid month since I've read an article or chatted with a friend. A calendar should feel like a hug, not a handcuff. I can flex as I need to, but I need to hold space for me. I can only be my most productive and creative when I'm making time for the things that give me energy, ideas, and connection. Next, book regular brain dumps. I do this weekly. Unofficially, I do it daily, but formally, every week, I spend an hour putting all of my ideas, insights, curiosities somewhere in my bullet journal. Again, this frees up the real estate in my head, but it also compels me to periodically look for themes, to see what's coming up time and again that's calling out to me, to test or to try. Start with just 15 minutes. You might be surprised to realize how much you've actually been storing up there. Keep it simple. Have a few prompts handy for yourself. Things like, what did I find interesting or curious this week? What did I learn this week in an article or a course or even a conversation? What am I interested in exploring further? What questions have I been stuck on that I need to find answers to? Make the questions your own, But give yourself the space to just free write. You're going to find a pearl in there. Trust me. Next, honor the checklist. Checklists aren't sexy. They just aren't. But they can save a life. Like literally. There's a whole book on this. It's called The Checklist Manifesto, written by Atul Gawande. And he writes about how in certain environments, like hospitals, having everyone follow a checklist can ensure that hands are washed, stations are sterilized, all surgical implements are accounted for after a surgery, like also not accidentally sewn inside of a patient. The point is, sometimes having a checklist to follow ensures ease and consistency so you don't have to think about it. Maybe you're not saving babies, but what process do you have to follow on repeat? Like generating finance data or building email campaigns or operating machinery in compliance with safety protocol that has a series of steps to follow. Imagine if you just kept handy a list that told you what steps to take. Where could your mind go if it didn't have to work to remember? And finally, stay mindful. Okay, this one is actually mostly for me. It's the thing I most need to work on. I know better, but I still too often let myself get swept up in the busyness and chaos that always make themselves available. But when I'm racing and churning, I'm never at my best. So I have to get better at pushing pauses into my day, at stopping every hour or two just to pause and breathe and check in, and ask, am I doing what most needs me right now? And am I doing it wisely and well? When I remember to do this, I often realize there's something less urgent but more important that needs my attention. Or maybe that there is a simpler way to bang out this urgent thing so I can get to the important one. A mindful check-in helps me to release the head trash I'm carrying and just get more essential things done. Cognitive offloading is about working smarter, not harder. By freeing up the space in your brain, you're carrying less, leaving you ready for more productivity and creativity. So what do you need to offload? Write it down and feel that extra bit of breathing room. Join me next week for another great episode. Until then, visit my website at leadabovenoise.com if your workplace could use an activation boost, a boot camp, a keynote, a pulse check, you choose. Follow Modern Mentor on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Find and follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks so much for listening and have a successful week. Modern Mentor is a quick and dirty tips podcast. It's audio engineered by Dan Farabend. Our director of podcasts is Brandon Getchis. Our podcast and advertising operations specialist is Morgan Christensen. Our digital operations specialist is Holly Hutchings. And our marketing and publicity associate is Davina Tomlin.